Here we are back once again. It is our yours truly, the maniac. We have another segment of the current state of mind. I go by the name of Thando Nkonyana, yours truly, the host of Motivational Maniac. First of all, we start this one again in the holy name of Shiva, the one above, who gives us the honor and the privilege, most importantly. Shout out to everyone who's tuned in to every single episode, even if it's one episode. We would like to start this one off by being grateful to everyone who's been contributing towards our growth, whether it's been negative or positive. We appreciate to all the ones who go out of their way to actually comment on the videos on my YouTube channel. Follow me on YouTube, Thando Nkonyana. Um, Motivational Maniac. Like I said, gratitude to everyone who's contributed towards this journey. Another current state of mind late in the month of March of 2025. I know I double barreled. Yeah, it's another one. It's another one. It's another one. It's another one. Another piece of greatness. Another opportunity for us to actually reflect. I'm doing this once again, and I want to start this one off about one of my favorite line, rest in peace to the great Keenan Forbes, Keenan Jared Forbes to be exact. That is AKA to all the people that know him as his stage name, a hip hop artist, born and bred in a Cape Town, a Kryptonian by heart, one of the greatest artists to come out of this country. And his favorite line that I love, not his favorite line, my favorite line from one of his songs is that listen to your old shit, that's your only pressure. So I just started this day off by making sure that I do the necessary, put in the work, and making sure that I continue from where I left off. So yeah, let's start this off on that emphasis about listen to your old shit. That's your only pressure. That's because we are in the journey of comparing ourselves or against who we are currently and not who we used to be, because that is the benchmark. If you're not trying to improve against who you were, I think you might find yourself in a state of misery. Misery in a sense where it is very unfair against yourself to actually compare yourself to who someone is today rather than comparing yourself of who you used to be, and the necessary step that you actually took to get to where you are currently. The reason why I wouldn't even say always, I like to touch base on that is because I don't want to steal my joy. And the reason I don't want to steal my joy is because I understand my journey is unique. And in the uniqueness of my journey, the most important thing is for us to actually understand that it's going to be an everyday struggle, man, trying to figure yourself out. Figuring yourself out is a long term journey, man. And um, we we actually don't give ourselves the necessary credit by actually reflecting on how far we've actually came. And I didn't realize that I was actually starting a revolution when I started this podcast. The most empowering thing you can ever do right now is actually tell your story. And it's you trying to discover what you are actually gifted with, because everyone is embedded with a gift. It's just that you need to put in the necessary work to make sure that you go and discover that gift. The reason why I emphasize on, oh shit, I spilled that, didn't close it. It don't matter. The reason why I emphasize on finding your gift is because your gift will get you into places that nothing else can ever get you into. Besides you having a job, besides you having a career, what is your gift, and how it's important for you to actually give yourself time to discover that gift. What am I really good at? Um, I always like this thing about you are a scientist. The reason why you're a scientist is so that you can be able to discover, go into your lab, the world is your lab, and you're going to meet people, you're going to meet situations. Obviously, it's more about interpretation more than anything, how we interpreting those situations that we do find ourselves in. And in within doing that, even if they don't pan out the way that we actually want them to, but there is also a lesson that is attached to that. And in within this lesson, man, there's a lot of struggle. Obviously, that is a guarantee. I know I'm a broken record, but I always talk about struggle because right now I'm at a point where I embrace the struggle. The beauty about embracing the struggle is that it is going to be showing you who you exactly are, what you are capable of, and how far you can actually go. I'm having my rooibos tea, by the way. If anyone wonders what is he having in that pink cup of his, yes, I also love pink, but that's not the topic. But yeah, in discovering the self and also the struggle, it's embedded with a lot of treasures, treasures that once we start to unravel them, because of our capabilities cannot be tested if we can't go through struggle. And I can reflect on a phase of my life in which I found myself questioning a lot of who am I exactly? What is my purpose? What am I here to actually do? And in starting those necessary questions, that is when the hyperbolic chamber became something very important. I take self care very importantly by making sure that I wake up and I nourish myself with positivity, whether it will be listening to my podcast, listening to a motivational speech, watching a podcast, or anything that would be able to be positive in terms of programming myself, because we don't understand that we can be able to program ourselves, we can brainwash ourselves into what we actually want, and it won't come easy. The reason why it won't come easy is due to the fact that nothing that stays permanent, but yeah, nothing is permanent in life will come easy. Have you ever heard of the phrase easy come easy go? I'm probably sure we heard that once in our life or many times in our life. So if we don't embrace the times in which it takes to become who we're supposed to be, the people that are gonna come in our life, because I believe everything is temporary, nothing is gonna be forever. Even the struggle that I faced in starting the show, in trying to find a medium of instruction. And shout out to my history teacher, Mrs. Bradlow, and for her pushing me, of telling me that I can actually do it. I can speak in front of people. I'm articulate. I can be able to interpret my reality in such a way that it can be relevant to someone else as well. So my life is more about teaching people about their own struggle as well, so that they can be able to reflect on a moment that they found themselves in, where they really had to dig deep into who they were, and no, not to find excuses, but instead embrace, okay, I'm here right now. What can I be able to do to take myself out of this? Because life is always going to be a series of mountains that you're going to climb. So you might as well be a very good climber. So she really saw my capabilities, but in her seeing my capabilities, I also had to come to the fore by making sure that I put in work in myself. And it started in high school. My peers were also very important. As much as my teachers were also important, my peers were also important. My circle at that time was also very important in transitioning me into this person, feeding me that confidence to say, you know what, dude, you can actually do this because you're actually good at speaking with people. You're very positive, you inspirational, you motivational. I'm like, okay. So these are the very same seeds that I'm still sowing right now. And I'm still at a beginner's phase, man. I'm still at a beginner's phase. So to anyone who's going to be seeing this, starting is going to be the hardest thing that you're going to ever do in your life. I realized that when I had that smartphone, I already had all the answers, but it was a matter of me not looking outside, instead try to look in within, because this speaking capability, this motivational ability is in within me. So that would be something that I go back a lot on, especially when things are not going good, to say, you know what, Thando, you've started, man. How about you learn how to continue? Because once you get good at starting right now, it's all about, okay, how are we going to continue this? How are we going to get this thing going? And that is where learning is going to be important. You don't know everything. I'm going to say that again. You don't know everything. And even when you get to know the stuff that you're supposed to know, you actually find that you don't know anything at all. So life is always going to be about learning the apps, Thando, learning social media, understanding human psychology, speaking with people, because that is how you're going to get feedback, making mistakes, getting that positive, constructive criticism, even the negative as well, because I learned the power of actually um, being able to handle the negative. I had to handle the negative a lot of times in my life, and I'm quite grateful that I didn't run away from the negativity, but instead I was like, there is also something that I can take away from the negative. So I respect everyone's opinion, even if that opinion might seem like it's not relevant. In my reflection times, I will always go back on, what did this person say? What positive can I take away from that, even if it's negative? So handling the negative is going to be one of your biggest superpower, especially if you learn and persevere on that, meditate on that a lot. I talk a lot about meditation because I love meditation. It's a moment for me to observe my thoughts. It's not a moment for me to interact with the thoughts. It's a moment for me to see where is my mind actually focused on. And I stumbled upon Isha Kriya. I can't remember very well who introduced me to Sadhguru, but a former colleague of mine had a partner who actually said that I should look into listening to his content and see what I can actually find from that. Because at first, when I started to listen to all this stuff, it didn't make sense. But then it's a matter of you sticking through, and then in within me listening to Sadhguru's content, I stumbled upon, okay, I've been wanting to learn how to meditate and all this kind of stuff that has to do with mystics, um, self-reflection, and all those things. And I stumbled upon Isha Kriya, which is a meditation that Sadhguru has actually created. It's like a 15-minute meditation with instructions. So I would advise anyone who is interested in Sadhguru. Sadhguru is an Indian mystic, very powerful, very, I can't even describe it right now, but because I'm describing the journey of how I actually got to Isha Kriya, and the very first meditation that I had, I couldn't even sit for 2 minutes because of the chatter that was in my head. And it was so hard to deal with listening to myself without interacting, because I've been on this trajectory, on the cycle of always talking, and never finding time to actually sit down, have these thoughts come through. And it was not even a matter of me actually interacting with the thought. It was more about observing what were they telling me about myself. And the hard decision obviously was the hyperbolic chamber. Why I talk about the hyperbolic chamber, guys, to all Dragon Ball Z fans, you would know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the hyperbolic chamber. That is where Goku goes to train. So I self-defined that because of my love for Dragon Ball Z, and RIP to the creator of Dragon Ball Z. You don't know the impact that you've had in terms of our childhood, but as I grew up, I started to see anime as a way of life. Abanye, they call it Popeye. Abanye say, you are umdala for you to listen to Popeye. I'm like, That is what we people call cartoons. Ipopai. Funny enough. But the main emphasis was, as I started to grow up, I started to understand that there are a lot of life lessons in within um anime. So when I went into the hyperbolic chamber, that was a time for me. Now I had to apply all this Ishakriya. I was learning all these mandalas, and I call it my sadhana because that is my time where I sit and I just reflect. I listen to my thought, I practice my breathing, and it's so important for me to start the day off in that kind of way because it can actually propel me to be in charge of my day. So if you can get control of the first 30 minutes of your day, you have a higher chance of actually being in control of the middle of the day and even towards the end of the day. So meditation started to help me in that kind of way where now I was no longer a reactor, but instead I started to be an actor. I didn't I no longer, I mean, I no longer started being a reactor to my own thoughts. I started being an actor because now I was in a position where I started to question, why am I thinking this way? And that is when it started to make sense in terms of where my focus was. My focus was on things that I didn't have control over, which is a majority of the time we find ourselves in position where we are so frustrated about stuff that we don't actually have control over instead of focusing on what we have control over. So it helped me in that sense. So 2019, I went into the hyperbolic chamber earlier on. Meditations and all this stuff started to become very important. Now I started to build up the habits. I started to do habit stack, and credit to James Clear to his book Atomic Habits. That is one of my favorite books. I have the audio book, I have the digital version. I just need to get the physical book and build my library on top of that. In within me, also getting that first book, Witness Some Dark. It's more than just money and escape from the red race. So now, when I started to do that, 2019, we are there. We were struggling. There's no job. My mom is sick at the time, but I kept on having that love because now obviously YouTube was like a big part of my life. I was watching a lot of tutorials on how to create this, how to create this, how to create that. And this is where the idea of starting the podcast actually became a reality because I've been talking about it since 2016. I was in matric in 2015, left matric, went to UWC, didn't work out, dropped out, and then I was like, okay, I need to be very honest about what my reality is currently looking like at this moment, you see. And we didn't have food, there was no means of income. Yes, there was a grant, but I wouldn't see that as a means of income that we could be able to survive on, because for me, that was just a way of finding myself being lazy to say, no, mom will make a way. But I realized that I'm actually old enough. So I stumbled upon YouTube, made it my university, as I always talk about on the show. And then I started to make sure, okay, now anything I wanted to learn, probably someone out there has made a video about that. So I was like, how to make a podcast using your phone. These videos started to come out. I listened to the videos, I downloaded them, put them on my PC, have time in which after I've get all the necessary resources, sit down, absorb all that knowledge. Stumbled upon Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasters right now, which is just Podcaster, which was acquired by Spotify. I'm not sure if it was in 2014 because it was a separate company at the time. You could record, edit, put in music, instrumentals, and all that kind of stuff for your podcast, distributed on Spotify for podcasters at the time, as well as on YouTube. So, not on YouTube, sorry, on Spotify as well. So, it will do that for you for free. So now I started, okay, now you have no excuse. You actually have to do this. I was waking up in the mornings, 5 a.m., and then I would record. But this was based off me having a diary entries from that year of 2019. I started in February, in September. It started to make sense. Yes, I did stop in September, but in November, mid-November, early November, I started to record the necessary episode. Then I made a decision that I'm going to start uploading the podcast, because now I was starting to learn about how this app works, how you can be able to record an intro, a summary of what your podcast is going to be. And then I looked back and I was like, okay, I have about a couple of months where I was writing my diary entries. How about I start taking pieces of that, tell my story from when I started out in high school, the struggle I face, my failures, and everything else that I went through at that time. And that would be the first 2 seasons of the podcast. And it was me waking up, outlining the episodes, recording it separately. Yeah, I did it separately. I didn't do it on the actual app. So I would use a recording app, upload it there, cut it, put in instrumentals as segments and so on, and it became episodes. So the first ones were like 7, 8, even 5 minutes long. But then that was a means for me to actually build up the confidence, because at that moment I didn't know what I was doing. I was alone most of the time. I had changed my circle at the time in terms of the friends I had, because obviously to them I was a dreamer, because I wanted to start a podcast. Like, who starts a podcast without no job? You live in the hood and all of those things. I'm like, I need to get far away from these people so I can make this a reality. So in me doing that, now I started to, okay, now the blame is on me. Recorded the first season, uploaded it, which was 8 episodes. Recorded the second season, which was, I'm not quite sure, was it 8 episodes as well? I'm not quite sure. I need to go back on that. But if anyone can be able to go back and actually confirm how many episodes were in the second season, sorry, then they can be able to confirm. I think it was 6, and then I went on to 8. And then I was like, okay, now this is going to get a bit tiring, because now I'm starting to make it a bit scripted. And then I met Sungula Sitikyana. Shout out to Sungula Sitikyana, also known as Blood, my videographer. Check him out on other episodes. On my podcast, we had tons of conversations, plenty of episodes, value, laughter, reflections, and that whole enchilada, because this is a personal diary, most importantly, even though it does fall under social sciences, but it is a personal diary as well. So in within that happening as well, he gave me this idea, how about we start having conversations and all of that. I put him on the spot, because I had met him a couple of months, but I've always like bumped into him, and I always had this sense that this is a real one, in terms of how articulate, how smart he was, because that's the type of person I am. I like to look at the good in people, um, their capabilities. Yes, I might not have known him personally at that time. Then he went through his manhood journey. I called him through, bro, you're actually person that I'm interested in knowing. We started having conversations back and forth and all of those kind of things. Then it became conversational. But the person who started this entire revolution was my best friend, Pongoletu Maolwane, B7 Universe. Shout out to you, my brother. Appreciate you, love you. We had that conversation because I was also building up a friendship with him, which became a brotherhood. And that's one of my people that is in my circle of accountability. I call it my circle of accountability because we hold each other accountable for any phase that we find ourselves in our life. So our friendship has bloomed and became a brotherhood. He's my brother. He's my brother from another mother. And he's the one who started the revolution. We started having that conversation. We're recording. We didn't even know what we were doing. Because remember, we're trying a new concept. We're moving away from having the scripted, waking up in the morning, recording it when it's quiet and all those kind of, this is before the AI era. So yeah, we record this conversation and all of that. We were done. And then I uploaded the episode. I told him when it was going to drop. And then I started to tell him, you know what, bro, we need feedback from this. So make sure that a lot of people listen to this that are close to you. If anyone just finds in terms of any form of outcome in terms of, okay, this is what you guys can work on and so on. How did it sound? And all of that. And we had to take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because we were new to this. So we got our first feedback. I was editing. I was cutting out a lot of the silences because I started to get familiar with Audacity. Audacity is an audio recorder editor and all this kind of stuff. So if anyone is interested in knowing about Audacity, go and search Audacity, Audacity. That became like my first go-to on how to edit my podcast. It had too many silences. I was like, okay, Bongo, we're onto something. This is something that I actually can listen to. Next was Nwabisa Anita Mtobo, who came on the show, and then Shungula Sitikyana, and then Lukokti Mamputa, and then Buhle Kohana, because this was my circle. These were my people that were around me, that were inspiring me at the time, and they were telling me, yo, Tati, you're onto something here about this podcast. So it continued there. It got to a point where, okay, now we kind of have a bit of a formula right there. It's all about rinse and repeat and see where this is actually going. We continued from there onwards. We moved up. We finished the third season. We went on to the fourth. I was unemployed at that time. I was a father. Um, Around about season three at that time, my daughter was born. But we were pushing, doing the necessary and all of those things. And then once we got comfortable with one another, which is Sungula Sitikyana, now he started coming up with this idea, how about I start taking videos of you? We were in the park once and he said, I think I can take videos of you because your motivations are something else. I'm like, okay, something new, but let's try it. And the reason why I emphasize this whole journey is due to the fact that at every moment when I found something and I made it work, I needed to take it up a notch, improve upon it, and do all this kind of stuff. And then Sungula took, and then Sungula took, he took the recordings and he converted it into a current, not a current state of mind. Sorry. Shumbula took all those recordings, actually converted it into what you call the real talks. So those were recording of the actual podcast, even though it was just bits. Because remember, at that time, we were still going on the audio journey. So from season 1 up until season 7, it's an audio journey. This current season, season 8, that is when we started the video revolution, where we are on camera while we're also recording the podcast. So it's in full. You can watch it on Spotify. It's going to be soon on YouTube. I promise very soon. So yeah, at that time I didn't realize that I was actually like I was elevating. Like my slogan is elevate and motivate. I didn't realize that I was actually living, because it's through the action that I started to make my slogan actually a reality. So I did all of those things and it pushed me and it pushed me, and I'm still even pushing right now, but it feels like I'm only starting, guys. It feels like I'm only starting. Shout out to also Keenan Forbes. He said he's so inspired by what I'm doing. We grew up together. He's been on the show as well. Also on my football podcast, because he's a football coach. We bicker, we do all this kind of things, but it's all about love while we're also recording the content itself. And he said, I love the fact that this is so real. It's unscripted, because that's the main thing. It's us documenting our journey through the concrete jungle. And that's a term that I took from my former geography teacher, that is Mr. Fukwe at Weinberg High School, because he referred to the concrete jungle as the actual place where we walk, we see people and do that, and obviously it's made of concrete. So that made me take that and use it as part of the journey that I found myself in. That's why I call it the journey through the concrete jungle. So we're documenting all those kind of stuff. Um, and it's been an awesome one, man. I know I went on a bit of a journey right there. It's been an awesome one, and it's just a roller coaster, man. And also my father, Joshua Kula, my brother, friend, many things, confidant. He's always reminded me, life is a roller coaster. And sometimes the roller coaster is going to go up. That is when you should enjoy yourself. Sometimes it's going down. That is when you should hang on. And in our native language, Xhosa, he says that ngamachikochiko, which means it's like meanders. We see how a river is. A river will never go straight. There are places where it would meander. Meanders are the corners in which we're built. We learned that in geography on how meanders are formed and all those kind of stuff. They were not irrelevant because right now I can be able to say, okay, there's actual stuff that you can take from what you learned in school and apply it, especially if you like start to think deeper about it. So these meanders, which is Ngalamachikochiko, which are all these zigzags, sometimes life will take you astray, will take you to a certain place. You get to be in the wrong places, wrong crowd, and all this kind of stuff. And then obviously you would find yourself where you're questioning, okay, where am I really finding myself? And man, this journey is a very funny journey, guys. You're gonna be alone a majority of the time, and maniacs. I always like try to emphasize that you must live your life as uniquely as you can, because your pathway that you choose is not going to be someone else's. It's going to be unique. Like your struggle is unique to you. You know what you are dealing with every single day when you wake up. But if you are not as honest and as truthful as you can be about where you are, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You would do yourself a disservice by not understanding who you are and what you're capable of. And if that is not coming from you, because remember, everything happens in your mind. That is what you should be tuning in, so within, so without. So if I'm not tuning into my thoughts and the things that they are actually highlighting for me, then I will never realize my true potential. And remember, potentially is something that is always there. You just have to take accountability for everything, whether it's the faults, whether it's not your fault, everything. Take accountability for everything. And that is something that I'm very grateful for, is I took accountability for every part of my life, personally, spiritually, financially, family, and everything, man. Like overall, every aspect of your life. And knowing yourself, man, it's going to be an eternal thing. From the time that you're born up until you actually die, you're still going to discover who you are. You're still going to discover who you are. So to the Almighty Shiva, I'm actually grateful for the people you brought into my life, the people you took out of my life, because I understand everything is all about seasons. I went through a season where I had nothing. That is a season where I had to learn, okay, when days are dark, friends are really few. So when you have nothing, people won't help you. Don't blame them. Blame yourself. But you can't blame yourself forever. That is when you need to shift to responsibility. So I had to take responsibility, or I want to be this person. So what habits does that person have? What would that person be doing to get to where they want to go? Because you need to first outline the actual pathway. Once you outline the actual pathway, now you need to go and do the necessary to take you to that goal. And remember, the destinations doesn't change. It stays the same. And in it staying the same, obviously, sometimes you're going to take a detour. I'm not sure where I got this from, but to me, life is, we are all in this bus. And remember, bus, we all have stops. Some people will get off, and there are some people who are going to get off because we're getting off at that stop. But because we know why we're getting at that stop, we know where we want to go. And some people know where they want to go, and they will actually get off at that stop, whether they will do it alone, because I like the road less traveled, the uncharted land, undiscovered land. I'd rather be doing that, you see, instead of doing the conventional, everyone has done this and all of those kind of things, because I don't like easy. I don't like easy. Easy come, easy go. If it comes easy, it's going to go easily. But if you worked for it, you sweat for it, you struggled, then it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna hit differently, man, when you get that success. So yeah, man, that would be something that I just wanted to ponder on that, my own journey. And for someone else who's gonna be at the receiving end of this content to realize their journey is unique, man. Your journey is so unique. And I wanna say, young man, Thando, I'm proud of you, man. Shout out to the younger me who persevered, who pushed through, who put in the work. I love you, man. I love you, bro. I love you. And self love is the best love, guys. So, yeah, that is my thoughts on this current state of mind. I hope you can be able to tune into other episode. Tune into our podcast, Motivational Maniac.